Hi students, I'm going to just make a quick video here showing you guys how I set up this assignment for Aperture, because I know a lot of you have been having a little bit of trouble with this and it might be a little unclear, and I think it's easy when you see somebody do it. So since I can't be with you in person, you can watch my video and hopefully this will really help you guys out. So I've got my camera. Notice where I am right now. I am not outside, but I'm right by a window. You want as much natural light as you can possibly have. That's going to just help everything. If you are in a dark place, this is not going to work. So if you're doing this late at night, bring in as many lights as possible, but in a perfect world, don't do it at night, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do when I turn on my camera is make sure that I am in Aperture priority mode, which on my camera is AV. I have a Canon. If you have a Nikon, it's probably just an A. I'm also going to adjust my ISO. So I press the button. My ISO here is turned up all the way up to 6400. For this assignment, especially if you're not outside, I would recommend that you do this as well. It'll probably make more sense later as I explain, but when you have a higher ISO, your camera is more sensitive to light and you're able to go to those really narrow apertures without your shutter speed getting too slow. It all goes back to this exposure triangle. So right now I'm all set up and I'm ready to go. So I'm gonna take my first picture. The purpose of my first picture is I'm gonna try to blur the background, and I wanna have the widest aperture that my camera can possibly do. In my camera, I just changed my aperture. My aperture is 2.8. A lot of your cameras, I believe your widest aperture will be 5.6. That's fine. So just open your aperture up as wide as possible, and the purpose here will be to blur the background. So, and that would mean that you're going to have a small depth of field, okay? So I'm looking through my camera. I am focusing on the pumpkin in the middle. I'm half pressing my shutter button to focus, and then I'm gonna take my picture. Okay, so I'm gonna play it back. Now, if you look at this image, you can see the small depth of field. The chairs in the background are blurry. And you can see my settings here. I've got my shutter speed is 1/1000 of a second and my aperture was at 2.8. Okay, now the purpose of my next picture is going to be that I want to have a sharply focused background. I want to have a very large depth of field. So I'm gonna go try to make my aperture be a much larger number. Okay, so here I go. I'm gonna change the dial here. I'm gonna move it up. And I'm kind of, while you're moving your dial, you wanna watch what's happening. Your shutter speed should be slowing down because now your camera aperture is getting much smaller. It's letting in less light. Therefore, your shutter speed is gonna try to slow down to let in more light. So it all works kind of together. So I've noticed here, I've gotten to f20, my aperture would be 20, and my shutter speed is 1/25 of a second. That's too slow. That shutter speed could cause my hand to shake a little. We might see that objects are blurry, and that's not what I want. So I'm gonna move my aperture around until I get here. When it's f13, I have 1/80th of a second is my shutter speed, and that's better. So here we go. I'm gonna half press and take my picture, focused on that pumpkin again, and look what I got here. The background is in much greater focus. I have the much larger depth of field. You can see my shutter speed is still okay here. It's 1/60th of a second, and my aperture was f13. So I hope that helps you guys. I thought it might be easy for you guys to see it when I did it. It takes, as you can see, 5 minutes if you have the right setup, but it's key that you have good light and your ISO is set as high as possible, okay? That's gonna make all the difference in the world. So do those things, and if you did it wrong and you realized your assignment is going to be late because you did it wrong, shoot me an email and we will figure out when you can do this correctly, because I want you guys to learn this concept. It's really important and it'll help your photos. In the future, you'll be able to, just be more creative with your pictures and get the pictures that you want, okay? So hope that helps, and please email me if you have any questions. Goodbye.